leave, but it is good to be home. Thank you so much for, I just want to make sure that I get this. Thank you so much for anybody that helped us get there financially, and obviously your support and prayer. This was a really tough trip to put together, and it was quite a journey. We decided really in Orlando last year at Fine Arts that we were going to take a go at going to Guatemala. Hannah had gone last year and said it was the coolest thing ever, so we're like, well, it's the coolest thing ever, we should probably go check it out. And it was pretty darn cool. It was incredible, and I know our kids, our students got so much out of it. You're going to get to hear a little bit about it today. Caitlin, can you come and join me? Is your camera all set up? Okay. So real quick recap of what we did while you have to stand here awkwardly while I keep talking. So we had 2 flights. We flew to Atlanta, and then we took a longer flight to Guatemala City. Slept at what they call a hostel. It's just all of us piling into bunk beds and sleeping one night, waking up early, driving 5 hours to this little port to hop in some speedboats where we packed all of our luggage and about 20 or 30 people in this little tiny speedboat, and went very fast and got very wet for about a half hour, where we arrived at our camp. You saw some pictures of the camp, obviously. And we were divided into teams. There are 11 teams of about 10 kids, 2 mentors who are, each team was from a certain village in Guatemala City, or a certain part of Guatemala City. So they had 2 mentors that came with them. So it was a couple American volunteers, 2 mentors, and about 10 kids with 1 or 2 translators. So that was kind of your crew for the week. So we would wake up early, we would have an American team devotional, and then usually our 5:30 time usually involves some running. So that was awesome. It was incredibly hot. You could not really breathe. It didn't seem like there was oxygen anywhere to be found. Just water that you couldn't see. But yeah, so we'd play soccer every day. We'd have lunch, lots of pureed black beans. You don't like pureed beans? And then we would go and we'd watch the kids play soccer games in the afternoon, and we would cheer them on like crazy fanatics. We don't care about soccer near as much as they do. They were very into it, and we figured out that we had to match their energy pretty quick. And so we were just cheering them on. Evenings we'd have chapel, and a speaker would speak, and we'd have time to do exactly what the adults did this morning for our children, and just model what it looks like to go after Jesus in worship. So that was pretty awesome. I'm going to let Caitlin kind of share a little bit about what Champions in Action is. That's the group that we worked with, and we were just truly blown away by how they run things. So I'll let her talk.
So Champions in Action started about 6 years ago, and how their program works is the mentors find 10 boys that are at risk. So the biggest problem over there are gangs. I mean, if you're 16 and you're not in a gang, like, that's very rare. So it's split up into zones, and so like gangs of one zone just go and kill gangs in other zones. When we were driving through on our last day and looking at where these kids were from, they said, you know, you will never catch me out here at nighttime, and I really don't even want to come out in the daytime because it's so common to just hear gunshots and just things going on. So that's where these boys are from, and so the mentors pick 10 kids, they bring them to this camp, and the cool thing is that, you know, these kids come from poverty. I mean, they have nothing. So the volunteers like us that come from here, the money we pay to go on the trip pays for these boys to come to camp, which is just really cool. So they come to camp for a week. They don't know that it has anything to do with Jesus, really. They just think it's a soccer camp, and then we just minister to them in the evenings. And by the end of the trip, kids get saved, and over half of the kids, so there's 100 kids, and half of them got baptized in the ocean the last day we were there, which is really awesome. So the mentors then, after camp, stay with them for a whole year. So they disciple them and they mentor them for an entire year after camp. And then next year, they bring a whole new group of 10 boys from their village. So these kids, although it was really sad and hard for us to leave them, we knew that they were being left with their mentors for a whole year, and they live in their community and they know everything about them. And so it's just like a really cool program. And the point is to catch them. They're like 10 to 14 years old, so it's to catch them before they get involved in gangs. And it was just a really cool thing to see. So there was about 30 or so of us American volunteers that were there, and is that all you want? So it's a really cool program. Also, I wanted to throw out, if you feel so called, they just started a sponsorship program, so you can sponsor a team, because for the next year while they're being discipled, they play in a league. So like the teams that we had stay a team the whole year and play in these leagues. So you can sponsor a team, so your money just goes to a team, and the mentors use it as they feel they need to use it. So for snacks, a lot of these kids eat 1 meal a day, which is just insane. So they help buy them food if they notice the kid's not eating enough. And so if you want more information on that, you can go on their website and sponsor a kid. It's like $30 a month. But it's a really awesome program. And last year they had a boys camp, but they were unable to do the girls camp because they didn't have enough funding to do the girls camp. So it would be really awesome if anyone felt called to help sponsor. And you can even give a one-time donation to their cause. It's really cool.
Well, students, why don't you make your way up here and we'll grill you on some questions on how the trip went. Can we give them a hand, not just to fill time, but it takes a lot of guts to go on a trip like this. There were some scary parts. Last day we were there, we were in the village. You know, it's one thing, you know, you guys see these pictures in the video, and you've seen videos and commercials about third world countries. So it's hard. It was even hard for us to go there and see it, because most of the time you're on a bus and you're driving through, and sometimes the bus window just seems like a TV screen. You're not on the ground, you're not close to the people. But the last day, we actually went to where two of the teams lived in Guatemala City, and it was dirty. Their soccer field, you saw a couple pictures, but their soccer field's just covered in like horse poop, and you're having to watch, you know, you're playing soccer and you're trying not to step on a bunch of who knows what, and then you're watching their families look out their tin, what should be a roof, their tin door, and you just can't even imagine what it's like inside. And so we were actually there, and it was very, just like a lot of what's going on, like you're talking about, Pastor Dan, just in our country right now. So it's hard to process, and we'll share a couple of those stories, but. I'd like to, let's see, who do I want to ask first? Let's do this. I had them prepare answers to 3 different questions. So let's have Hannah and Alex, you guys are going to share first, all right? So Hannah, you're first on my list here. What was one thing that happened in your heart that you didn't expect on the trip? You want a different question? Okay, if you could describe the trip in 1 word. Okay, describe the trip in 1 word and tell us why.
The word that I chose was challenging, but challenging in a good way. Like, a soccer game is challenging. If it wasn't challenging, it wouldn't be fun. So the whole trip was very, very challenging, but it's so much fun, and you feel so much joy while you're doing it. And the first 2 days, like Sunday and Monday, are like the hardest days out of the entire trip. Besides the last day, leaving all of them, that's very hard. But Sunday and Monday are really, really hard. There was one devotion in specific that one of the U.S. volunteers shared, and they spoke about an acronym. Like, they were kind of going through the same thing, where the first couple days are really hard. And the acronym was HALT. It was hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. And those 4 things, you feel them throughout the entire week. Very hungry all the time. Tired all the time. Hot, yes, unbelievably hot all the time. The first couple days specifically were really hard for me because of the language barrier. I speak Spanish very little, and especially with native Spanish speakers, it's very hard to understand them. So the first couple days were really hard. I sat at the table, didn't really talk to the kids. I hung out with my mentor and my translator, and I didn't really interact with the kids so much. And those first couple days, like, it really hit me. I thought that this trip wasn't going to be as good as it was last year. I was really disappointed and kind of upset. I thought that it just wasn't going to be good. I just thought I was going to have to get through the week and just kind of deal with it. And I was really upset. But then Tuesday night at the service, I just kind of had this, like God kind of just spoke to me and said, like, I brought you to camp last year because I knew that you needed camp, and I knew that you needed Guatemala, and to see Guatemala, I needed to change your life. And this year, I brought you to serve. You came because you're obedient, and I brought you to serve. Like, I'm not always gonna give you these things on a golden platter. Like, sometimes you just need to be obedient and serve, and it's not fun sometimes, but that's what I've called you to do, and you just need to be willing to do it. So, from that day forward, the rest of the week was awesome, and because I chose to be obedient and happy and positive about some of these things that were really hard, God did bless me in return, and He showed me all this love that He has for me, and all the love that these kids need. And then I was just able to form all these connections with the volunteers and the kids and speak to them as much as I could, and it really just turned around from there. So.
All right, Alex, original question. What was one thing that happened in your heart that you didn't expect? Lots of things happened in Alex's heart this last week.
Cried a lot.
Lots of crying.
Sorry, I'm really nervous.
I think. Okay. So one thing that happened, and I'm probably gonna cry. I'm sorry, I can already feel it. So one thing that happened in my heart that I didn't expect, and especially because the weeks leading up to it, I was, going through those motions where you're kind of dry and, you're not feeling a lot. So I didn't have a lot of joy in my life. So one thing that I didn't expect to have happen in my heart was to feel so much joy. And it was a joy that there was no way I could find it anywhere else. And it's a joy I'll probably never be able to feel again. But I'm going to continue to carry that joy that I felt that entire week with me. And each one of those boys they're written in my heart. And the gratitude that I have, I can't even describe it. I mean, there's no words that can describe a trip like that for me. There's just not enough words. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the letter that I wrote to the boys because I feel like it's the best way to describe it. All of this.
This is why you didn't choose the one-word answer. The one-word question.
Yeah, very much. So this was the letter that I had read to them on our last day, on our first goodbye out of the 4. I cannot express to you the amount of joy you have given me. It's so easy to get into routine and lose true joy. But you as a team and each as an individual has restored that joy in me. You are forever engraved into my heart, each and every one of you. You all are now a part of who I am. People will know of the love and joy this team shared back home. I will never stop cheering you on. You will be in my prayers and in my heart. I already miss you, knowing soon we will go our separate ways, but we still forever will be connected through this camp and through Jesus. I leave my love with you, and you are deserving of all the love there is to give. You made an impact on me, and I will forever be grateful. I need to tell you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks. I'm gonna insert a little story to kind of tag off that. The love and the joy that she's talking about. You wonder how much, especially the teenage girls, right? How much of this is teenage girl emotion? You know what I'm saying? And how much of this is Jesus? And I'll tell you what, especially for this girl right here, God gave her a burden for these kids and a love for these kids and for our whole team. I mean, you'll hear more in a second. I want to share one quick story from a kid from my team. I don't think I cried this week, but I will. But I got emotional, I had a burden. This kid named Samuel, Thursday night, I think it was, maybe Wednesday, we had a service, and the guy speaking just encouraged. He had done the service, we had done worship. Had a guy come up and play piano, just real chill, and he invited the kids to come up and give their life to Jesus. And then he did something that really threw me for a loop. He said to the American volunteers, he said, "I want you guys to just come up, and I want you to, find some kids from your team, and I just want you to hug them. Just hug them." That was the only instructions. And so there were about 35 or 40 volunteers that just, and every kid just melted. And the next night we kind of went around. Most of you know how we do like uplifting type stuff, where we just uplift each other on Find Our Strips and youth stuff. And we kind of did something similar. And this kid, Samuel, through a translator, obviously, he was the kid that I had gone up and hugged, and he just, for 20 minutes, it wasn't like, all right, get your cries out. And we were just, and everyone's crying, and the next night this kid just said, "Joe, I want to thank you, because until last night, I had never felt the love of a dad." And I was just like, wow. And that's so many of these kids. And there's so many kids in America like this. They don't have a dad, and there's no one to show. That's why that instruction of give these kids a hug. If you do that in an American service, why are you hugging me? But these kids they need that. They're longing for that, and they don't say it, but they are. And then the next day at breakfast, the last day we were there, I see him for the first time. He runs over and just hugs me and looks up and says, "Dad." And then we leave, a couple minutes later. Last night I went and watched my dad participate in some Dancing with the Stars competition in Dayton. And I get to hang out with my dad whenever I want. I've grown up with a dad, and I've grown up with 3 or 4 other people to where if I didn't have a dad, they would pick up the slack. And these kids just don't have that. And so what Alex and our students have experienced is just the love that God can fill us with to give. And so when we sing, you're talking about going through the motion. When you sing, "Fill me up," songs like we always sing, "Fill me up," or "Love of God, overflow." That's what we need to ask for, is God, show me who doesn't have love and let me overflow into their life. So thank you, Alex, for sharing. All right, Kyla, you've got the one-word question. If you could explain the trip in one word, what would it be?
Okay. I wrote this down because I'm not one to go off the top of my head. To describe this trip in one word is very hard for me to choose because it was just so amazing, and there's just so many words that come to mind to describe this trip. But the one word that I think best describes this trip is exhilarating, which means making one feel very happy or giving someone a thrill. This trip made me very, very happy, and like Alex said, I felt this joy that I had never experienced before. And there was this thrill I got when one night we were all sitting under the tent, can't remember what night it was, and it just was pouring down, raining, and just thundering, but all the kids we're just talking and laughing and dancing, and it just made me so happy and just thrilled. And this trip also made me happy. It opened my eyes to what life in other countries is like and how the younger generation is affected by it. And it also just made me realize how lucky us Americans are, and how teenagers have so much and these kids have so little. And you see it in commercials, obviously, like, give $1 a day and stuff like that, but it never really hits you how bad off these kids are until you actually see it for yourself. And it also just made me happy to just simply kick the ball around. There was a very big language barrier. I don't speak I don't speak a lot of Spanish, so just doing small things like playing rock, paper, scissors with them, or arm wrestling, or anything like that. It brought such joy to their faces, and just simply